conference is not a bad idea. I've always been an advocate of we need to discuss. There's always need for a dialogue.
To have set up the national conference with the kind of money that we are collecting as feeding allowance that was even more than the minimum wage of quite a number of workers.
On the national conference, I will say it's a good start. All we need in this country is God's backing on our agenda to move the country forward.
Because in order for you to have change, you need to have some form of cohesion where you have shared values, shared understanding of the problems, and a shared sense of direction for the country. And I think that's what the conference should have accomplished.
Hi there, welcome. This is Patitos Gang, the national conference. 19 billion or more spent discussing our past. What should we spend discussing our future? Different opinions. Today, people on the streets, the gang, talk to the national conference. Was it worth it? Have a listen. Welcome. This is Patitos Gang.
Well, the national conference was supposed to be an avenue to bring stakeholders across Nigeria, to engage on the challenges of the country and to map out a way forward. My honest opinion is that so much attention was spent fighting over issues that were not relevant to the future of Nigeria in terms of dealing with the daily challenges of the average Nigerians.
To have set up the national conference with the kind of money that we are collecting as feeding allowance that was even more than the minimum wage of quite a number of workers was a little bit not necessarily irresponsible, but given the quality of life in the country and how far our economy is faring, I think the timing was poor.
But what my problem is that the quality of people that are attending the conference where I have a problem. If it's for the national conference, I'm fine with it. I've always emphasized that we needed to come together and discuss our future. But you cannot discuss my future within 80 years, 70 years, where the youth, we all know that 70% of the Nigerian public is made up of about between 30 to 17 years.
On the national conference, I will say it's a good start. All we need in this country is God's backing on our agenda to move the country forward. We should support the president, our dear president, in prayer in every area to help him move this country forward.
And we are back. This is Patitos Gang. I'm enjoying this double header. A great privilege given me by Austin Mweze and Eugino, who are the regular co-hosts now of this show, to do something that I last did in 2006 or thereabouts, to sit on the host chair. And the subject, national conference. Lots of views about a spend of anywhere between 19 billion and wherever by Nigeria to discuss Nigeria's future. There are many who think that it was a complete waste of useful money that could have paid for good education, feeding of children in primary schools, things that affect citizens. There are those who think that it was useful conversation. Did the national conference really have to run the way it ran? I guess the gang will speak to this. We have our perspectives, and we'll find out whether the money was well spent. So, folk.
Well, while I have no problem with we as Nigerians coming together to discuss our issues, I think that to allow yesterday's men to preside over the future of Nigeria is an anathema. Secondly, if you look at the composition of the delegates to the national conference, but for very few credible people, a lot of those who were there were just men who had wasted their years and, I don't think had anything to do in that national conference. Besides the amount of money, I see it more or less as a jamboree. A lot of people who were there had no business being there. Monies that were wasted could have been used, or better channeled for the better purposes.
Yeah. But was talking necessary? Did we need to talk?
I think we always need to talk. We always need to talk, and maybe more importantly, we need to listen. And we need to keep our minds open so that we can hear, learn, and moderate our views and reach agreement. That's very important. But it has to be in a way that is meant to get us somewhere, to advance matters. And from what's happened or has not happened since the national conference ended, it seems that it was a purposeless discussion.
There were those who felt from the very beginning that it was a deliberate strategy by government to keep attention away from its challenges, keep people busy, and collect the document like most conferences in Nigeria and just put away. Is that an uncharitable view?
Well, nothing has happened since then that would dispel that view. In fact, everything that's happened since then would reinforce that view. The documents have not moved. Apparently, they've gone to the National Assembly, although I'm not sure that's official. And the National Assembly really hasn't taken any notice of them yet. It's still busy wrapping up its own amendments. And I believe right now it is about to pass its amendments to the state houses for ratification. So it would appear that once that is done, they're not going to come back and really pay any attention to the results out of the national conference.
Okay. In my own opinion, I believe the conference was actually necessary. But the composition of people who came together to deliberate on those issues, I don't think it was the right set of people that were there. I felt personally that it was just an avenue for the government to give back to some people who had served in political positions. And like we've been saying, what's actually the outcome of these discussions? What has happened after the conference?
So it really was a welfare thing. In the army, it's what they call welfare.
Honestly, my opinion.
When you come to visit the boss, when you are going, they look for welfare for you. So the national conference was a 19 billion naira welfare package for people who could have had better use of their time, which is a classic, and it's a shame, big shame, because Nigeria needed to sit down and talk. I was one of those who called for the conference. I was actually convener of the group that, technically speaking, gave birth to the conference idea, a Nigerian Summit Group.
Okay.
And the idea was that we'll talk about Nigeria's future. But it seemed to me that the moment I saw the structure, the composition, and all of that, it was clear in my mind that we're going to talk about Nigeria's past.
True.
And settle old scores. But even I, in my pessimism when I saw the composition of the group, could not have imagined that they will spend so much time talking about how to share revenues from oil that will not exist in 25, 30 years, that will be relevant to the future of Nigeria. And what struck me, the British historian Neil Ferguson, in his reflections on civilization, the West and the rest, likes to make the point, a little too flamboyantly, I think, but with good sense of history, that the making of the 1787 Constitution of the United States of America was perhaps the most profound piece of institution building in human history. Why is this so? It is because those people, if you really go back and look at the documents and look at the thinking, we're thinking 300, 400, 500 years from that moment. When we get together to reflect as a country, and we're thinking 50 years ago, how did you upset me? What did I do different to you? And from what's wrong with our elite? Why is it that we can't do in the year 2014 what people did in the year 1787 in the United States of America? What's it about our nature?
I think that we lack essentially an elite that has no power of imagination. They cannot see beyond today. They are much more interested in, what, sharing
instant gratification
without thinking of the future. We also have people who I think are very, very insincere. Everybody wants to protect his or her, little tough. And so you find out that, our value system are also not right. We don't get it right. We don't mentor. Most of them who are there, even when they were there, never thought of a successor. They never thought of people who will take these things beyond them. And that's why I find men who are 80 years, 70-something years still being recycled. And of course, at that age, a lot of them are already senile. So it's difficult to have them to think straight.
Actually, I've done that the average age at the Confab was 60-something. Now, I'm sure they were not senile at the Confab, but really, seriously, there is something fundamentally wrong if you look at a population that is significantly young. That is, most of the people of this country are actually under the age of 30.
30, yes.
And then most of the people who went to discuss the future of this people under 30 were over the age of 60. I mean, it is inequitable. Even if we say that wisdom, a lot of wisdom has been gathered by these people, it makes more sense to have at least a majority of the people from the people who are the majority at such a conference.
Yes, at least a representative sample. At least they should have a voice.
Then you bring the wisdom.
And should have been heard.
And it's all about their future of these youths.
So, how are we going to amend this? Are we stuck with this waste of 19 billion naira? Should somebody not be held accountable for it? Should it just be, yes, Nigeria has had another 19 billion jamboree? Why is it that we're not holding the elite of our country accountable? We'll take a break. When we come back from the break, let's discuss why the Nigerian political class is not being held accountable, to a large extent, for destroying the future of a whole generation. In many ways, not just at the Confab. Who will hold the Nigerian political class accountable to history and to wherever else? We'll be right back.
Patitos Gang, Nigeria's favorite television talk show, is back on local terrestrial TV. The 30-minute potpourri goes to the heart of the matter with its focus on the common good, making government accountable to the people and deepening democracy. Your ultimate electronic village square talk show makes a big comeback with Eugene Ohu and Austin Nweze as co-pilots. Patitos Gang features credible voices from all sides of the political divide in a no-holds-barred discussion. Watch out for Patitos Gang airing on STV Monday night, midnight. Patitos Gang, more vibrant, more incisive, and more analytical than ever.
And we are back. This is Patitos Gang. Just before we went on break, we were talking about accountability. Who will hold all of us, Patitos Gang, politicians, everybody, who will hold us accountable?
The problem we have in Nigeria is the problem of leadership crisis, lack of accountability, bad governance. And since there is bad governance, the leaders, the present leaders, even the past, from the time Nigeria had independence up to this moment, there has been serious leadership crisis. There's no system in place for checks and balance. And since we don't have such in place, definitely the problem will continue until we have a serious monitoring department.
How will it happen? Is it going to just emerge from...
I think that the docility of the Nigerian people is an issue, and I think that we need to strengthen institutions, we need to strengthen civil society, and then we need to come out of our comfort zones as people to be able to hold government responsible for these issues. Now, we have elected representatives in both houses, the upper legislature, the National Assembly, and the House of Representatives. Unfortunately, the same set of people are the people you have in this two houses. Otherwise, I expect that every act of the executive should be subjected to serious scrutiny by these two houses. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. So I think that we need a strengthening of institutions, and that point has been made that this so-called issue about big man syndrome, shouldn't be, but institutions that can regulate, human conduct and hold them out. And then we need the civil society needs to be strengthened, and the Nigerian society.
What happened to civil society? What happened? It used to be vibrant. How come we've all gone to sleep in civil society? Where are the famous activists? Where are the...
The problem is that most of them are partisans now. They've joined politics, some of them who would have been, vibrant in challenging the bad leadership examples set by government, are now also involved in the same corruption. So unless we empower the future generation of Nigeria, this problem will continue. And the only way we can challenge this problem in Nigeria is by encouraging the future leaders, the young people, to take active participation in the governance of the country, and also to encourage the masses, the populace, to exercise their civic responsibility by voting wisely. Those who have not performed in the past should be voted out.
But do the elections really, do we have elections in Nigeria?
They really don't.
Do we really have elections?
Yeah, what we do is to encourage Nigerians.
They really do not count. What I expect is, you see, a lot of our voters need to be enlightened. Two, there has to be what I call this whole concept about deferred gratification. People have to imbibe such values. Yes. They have to be taught such values. Because what we have seen is a generation that has not bequeathed any serious value to the succeeding generation. And that's why you have a situation where even the youths themselves, the bulk of them, the primary goal for most of them is to go there and make as much money as possible, irrespective of how it is gone. And in a society where you measure a man's worth just by his material acquisition and how much he has in his bank account, it becomes a problem. So we need to reorientate the youths to begin to imbibe those values. Secondly is the education of our voters, that you cannot sell your birthright for a pot of pottage.
I think we're being a bit too negative, and I think we're actually generalizing rather much.
Too much.
All our leaders are not bad. All our elections are not bad. We have to build where we can build on what is good, recognize what is good, and build on it individually.
I don't agree with
that you think
there are many good people in public life.
Governor Fashola, for example, is a good leader.
That is debatable. It's debatable.
Every human situation is debatable. But I think
nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. We citizens are not perfect, so we do not deserve a perfect
leader. Those of us who are on the other side of the divide,
those who come out for
what divide? What's divide?
The other side. Politics of
other side. Which are the two sides?
We have some people on the island, and those of us on the mainland.
Yeah, Tom was going to say. Yeah.
It's sad that in Nigeria, I think most of the time we need to get into a stage of a revolution for things to happen. During the period of the Niger Delta, we had the boys and all that. They had to take it by force. They had to, talk. They had to speak out. They had to even go all the way to use arms and all that to ensure that the government listened to them. And now we can see the same issue in northern Nigeria. It's so sad because youths nowadays realize that they have to just go out, to ensure that the government concedes to what they want. They have to use force. It's sad.
The idea that Nigerians are docile and all of that, I'm sure somebody was saying Tunisians are docile until one man set himself on fire and the whole Arab world was engulfed in this uprising that has been called the Arab Spring. Does it have to take that to get an elite to recognize their self-interest? I mean, I talk about this all the time because I have a schoolmate.
For now, we don't have to go into a revolution. For now, since we have
but how do we educate people to know that the option that they will be big losers. Because what I see in looking at people who see public life today as their means to take care of themselves is that they have not looked closely at what happened everywhere else. Liberia, Sierra Leone, Somalia. The people who thought they were taking care of themselves found that when it eventually happened, they took care of nothing. They either were extremely lucky when they were able to run away, but even when they ran away, they became refugees in other countries, which was nothing particularly good for them. But if everybody realized that leadership, public office, is about sacrificial giving of yourself so that you can build a better society, and in the end, see, look, people who go to public life don't get rich in most countries. You actually choose to be either a leader or you choose to be a money man. There are really two tracks people tend to, those who look at the 60s and the great leaders of the 60s, the Okbaras, the Balewas, the Awolowas, they were not rich people. As professionals that were okay, some of them did, but they didn't come away rich, but history continues to remember their contribution. Today, it seems like anybody who doesn't know what to do jumps into politics. Actually, a governor, it's not fair to mention names, a governor at an event in Port Harcourt that was sitting there, the professor of economics from University of Port Harcourt was sitting around and he was talking. I think I was speaking. And when I finished, the professor said to me, I won't believe what this guy, there were 2 or 3 governors there, so that will cover for which governor was. You know what this governor was saying? He said, what's this man talking about sectors of the economic growth? The only growth in Nigeria is in politics. The only way where,
Well, he forgot religion.
Well, he forgot religion, obviously. Another growth sector.
Yeah, but what we can do is to sensitize the masses, to mobilize the youth, because the youth constitutes a greater percentage of the population. So if we can mobilize the youth and sensitize them and create awareness, on political process, on democracy, on the need for the youth to participate in democratic process, and then we can get it right.
Okay, well, our time is almost out. So to close, I'll just ask for 30-second quick reflection on this subject from all of us, and we'll begin from Emeka.
Yes, for me, I think that leadership is at the crux of what Nigeria's problems are today. We have an insincere light, we have a docile public, and then we have people who think not of the common good, but just necessarily for themselves. And leadership, like Professor Tommy has said, is about sacrifice, it's about giving yourself, and that people should know that going to public office is not just an avenue to enrich oneself, but to contribute and ensure that you leave Nigeria better than you made it.
Sure.
For me, I believe that leadership is when you actually practice what you preach. If you're there, you should be ready to serve. You should be ready to give something of valuable that's valuable to the people you're leading, and it's more of doing whatever you say you want to do. Don't do something else.
Ayo.
Well, I think we should try and build on what is happening, take advantage, learn, experience, and make the best of whatever situation we each find ourselves in.
James?
For me, the way forward for Nigeria is actually to constitute another national conference that will be properly constituted. And then all the people that participated in this past national conference should not be part of the new, they should not be part of the new delegates. And then only that time we can bring in, the people, the future leaders of this country to decide about the future of Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, folks. I think that on balance, Dr. Godaro is quite right. Maybe we generalized too much. I think there are a lot of good people in public life. Fortunately, there are too few, too scattered, and not working together to send the message very clearly that you achieve immortality when you serve. The second point I think is very important from what we have said is that Nigeria needs to talk. The idea of a national conference was not a waste. It's the way it was managed that made it a waste of 19 billion naira. Should we gather again in that regard? I mean, timing is an issue, but the Nigerian people's patience wearing very thin. We don't have a vision of Nigeria that our youth own, and we need to. All of history, in many ways, really, it's a bit of a lie. But the lie of American history continues to motivate Americans today to do extraordinary things. The myth of their founding fathers. We need to create myths that our children can take and make them do extraordinary things because of this myth of their country. So, there we go. National conference. Was it not exactly what it was supposed to be, but it was worth the talk, just gathering. Maybe if we hadn't made it welfare for people who gathered there.
For retirees.
For retirees, welfare for retirees. Maybe it would have been a different thing. We don't need to pay people to go to a conference to decide their own future. We'll be right back. And so we're back. This is still Petito's Gang, but it's time to go. 19 billion naira on a national conference that didn't seem to have given anything about the future, but concentrated on the past. Well, maybe we'll get a chance to talk to the national conference again. Some of the issues about leading and leadership that the conference was supposed to engage have actually been captured in this book, The Art of Leading, Open Secret of Leadership Effectiveness. I guess maybe we'll send it around to members of the national conference, but it's going to be available for people to share their sense of what we could be doing differently in. Next week, we'll take on something, again, hopefully elevating of our understanding of the common good of all. But for now, we've got to ask the question, do we need a national conference? One thing is certain, if we ever have another one, it wouldn't have to be a welfare for people who need welfare. It will be Nigerians sacrificing their time and their intellect to construct a future for their children. See you next week.
It seems as if no one is in control.